another handwritten story by me, is entitled Sunburn. Dustin marveled over the vast horizon in front of him. The trip to Mercury took several months, and even though they were over 30 million miles from the sun, it loomed large over the planet. They were orbiting Mercury, and for the first time, were actually seeing it up close. It looked very much like the moon orbiting the Earth. The sunrise to sunset lasted around 176 Earth days, but orbiting such a small planet took only 6 hours. Long-range scans showed valuable mineral deposits. Their mission was to confirm this and, if possible, land and start a small colony for mining. The spacecraft was built to withstand the journey. Upon arrival, the back half would separate and land on the planet. It was the first piece of the planned mining colony. Dustin decided to take the position of captain for this trip for several reasons. It was time he retire and settle down. Why not do it here? The plans for the colony were audacious. Nothing was taken for granted. Everything was made in twos. That way there was always a backup if needed. Over time, it was going to grow and eventually become an important space gateway where spaceships could use the sun's gravity to reach the speeds necessary to travel at the speed of light. In theory, but it had never actually been done before. He was the first one woken from the cryo chambers. The other 3,000 people were still in stasis. He was busy getting the ship ready for scanning for a suitable location on the surface, and then after sending a probe to the surface, if all the specifications were met, then he would wake the passengers from their sleep. But he had other plans. He knew that when they had the first human set foot on Mars, he claimed the planet in his name. A court battle ensued for years, but in the end, he won. All of the mineral rights belonged to him, and his family became the richest in the universe. It would be tricky, but he could configure the probe to allow himself room and stake the claim. If everything went according to plan, he would be back on board before the others were woken and send a signal to Earth proving he was the first person to set foot on Mercury. Dustin sat on the starship on autopilot and kept orbiting and double-checked the time he had until the auto sequence would start waking the passengers. He had 72 hours to get this done. His calculations show he could get to the surface and return well within 48 hours, giving him an extra day just in case he needed it. Reconfiguring the probe was easier than he thought. There was enough oxygen to last 3 days if needed. Also, his spaceship and spacesuit were designed especially to keep him cool in the searing heat. Before launching, he double-checked the probe link with the main ship's controls. If anything went wrong, he could send another probe to the surface to help. If the probe left the ship, he could see the name on the side of the fuselage, Coup de Soleil. The ship was built in France, and the name translated in English to Sunburned. The sun burned massively in the sky, but the probe started toward the surface, despite the overwhelming heat. Dustin kept an eye on the controls. They mapped the surface for a suitable landing spot, and within minutes, the ship control locked onto a large crater covering hundreds of miles that was suitable for a landing. The probe slowly descended. Dustin could see out of a very small window, and soon the edges of the crater loomed large in the distance. An altimeter showed just under 200 feet until landing. At 100 feet, a warning light flashed. The display soon lit up with warnings about the temperature increasing the closer the probe came to the surface. This was expected, so Dustin was not worried. As the probe hit the surface, Dustin was surprised that there was no dust particles flying around the probe. Instruments showed the gravitational pull was about 38% of that on Earth. This would make it easier to maneuver on the surface. The surface temperature showed 400 degrees Celsius, or about 750 degrees Fahrenheit. His spaceship were working properly and perfectly as he exited the probe. He decided to jump to the surface because it was about a 3 to 4 foot drop. The shuttle cameras should record his landing on the surface as proof of his claiming the planet in his name. I hereby claim the planet of Mercury in my name, Dustin Wright, along with the rights to all materials on the planet. As he landed, he was surprised to find there was no dust on the surface. He kicked the surface hard with his right leg, but nothing. It was like kicking a rock. Strange. The scientists hypothesized that there were going to be several inches of dust based on the high heat. He turned to watch the shuttle as it drilled into the surface to do an analysis of the minerals in the ground. A laser directed the drill to a circular pattern around the shuttle. Back on the Coupe de Celio, the master controls started to flash a warning. The shuttle detected an anomaly and was signaling the main ship that it was in danger. The main controls went into autopilot. Throughout the ship, red lights were flashing and a warning blasted over loudspeakers. Warning, imminent danger detected. Prepare to leave orbit. Take appropriate precautions. The warning repeated over and over again throughout the ship. Back on the surface, Dustin was climbing back in the shuttle. When he closed the hatch, the shuttle started to shake. Dustin strapped in as fast as he could and hit the manual override button. Then he hit the launch sequence buttons and the shuttle started to lift off the ground. As he climbed through roughly 10,000 feet, the surface below the crater started to crumble. It opened up suddenly to show a huge volcano beneath. It wasn't really a crater, but the top of an active volcano. The laser from the shuttle must have burned through the surface to cause the eruption. Dustin watched the volcano erupt below him, setting off a series of other volcanoes to erupt on the surface. Soon, more than half of the planet was engulfed in volcanoes spewing lava thousands of feet into the air. Within minutes, the shuttle docked with the mothership. As Dustin exited the shuttle, the alarms were still blaring. He ran to the control room and turned off the alarms. The controls were set on automatic, with the countdown clocking down to the time until engine start. He tried to stop the countdown, but the override did not work. The ship sensed it was in danger and needed to leave. Dustin ran to the cryo chambers. As he climbed back into his chamber, he felt the rocket engines kicking in. He set the controls for auto freeze and was almost instantly asleep. Back in the control room, the alarms started blaring again. Warning, imminent danger detected. Increased planetary gravitational pull detected. All engines set to max to escape orbit. All engines were firing at maximum capacity, but the ship was barely moving. The planetary surface was now covered in volcanoes. For just a split second, they all stopped spewing lava. The inner core had collapsed and all of the lava came crashing down into the center of Mercury. During that split second, the gravitational field collapsed and the ship instantly escaped, but was heading dangerously close to the sun. A second later, Mercury exploded, sending fragments in every direction. The force of the blast was so large that it pushed the ship from behind, gaining speed as it headed toward the sun. The controls tried to correct the current course to prevent hitting the sun. Soon the gravitational pull of the sun kicked in as the ship narrowly missed the sun's aurora. The ship started to shake violently. Then it suddenly stopped shaking as the ship passed the speed of light. Soon the sun was far behind the ship as it headed into the unknown direction. The control panel was unable to plot the stars because it was moving so fast. Sir, we have an incoming message from the Coupe de Celio. If they recorded and sent hours ago, but we just received it. Put it on the visors. I'm not sure how good the picture will be. When Mercury exploded, it sent fragments in every direction and affected solar flares. The giant visor lit up, showing a close-up of a man in what appeared to be a small chamber. The picture and the audio were weak, and as a result, the message was garbled. This is Captain Leal. We managed to escape. My last message before autopilot. The crew still in stasis, and the message stopped abruptly, followed by static for several minutes. That's all there is, sir. Would you like me to play it again? No, we have more important things to do. The Mercury event put actions in motion that we can't stop. Fragments will hit the Earth and, more importantly, the Moon within any minute. Scientists are predicting it will knock out the Moon of orbit, eventually hitting the Earth. We're looking to an extinction-level event. This is the end of mankind. It's too late to launch another craft. If the coup de Soleil hadn't crashed into the sun, there would be hope of keeping the human race alive. Go home. Be with your family and friends while you can. God bless you all, and it was an honor to serve with you. The coup de Soleil was traveling at the speed of light with 3,001 people in stasis. Destination